So my topic today is one of the dimensions from the LAB profile, the language and behaviour profile. And it's one of the motivation traits, and it's to do with whether people notice sameness or they notice difference in the world around them. There are also some sort of grey areas in between. So there are 4 points on this scale. So at one end, we've got people who sort for sameness. So say that's this end. The other end, we've got difference. So at this end of the scale, if a person sorts for sameness, what that means is that if you put them in a situation, they notice how it's the same as things that have gone before. So if they go on holiday somewhere, they'll notice all the similarities between their normal environment, their home environment, and the new place that they've gone to. If you put them on a new project, they'll notice how it's the same as things that have gone before. And often what you find is that people who have that way of thinking like things to stay the same. They enjoy the predictability, the confidence that comes with knowing what's going to happen next. So they'll quite often stay in a job over quite a long period of time because they'll enjoy knowing exactly what's going on. They enjoy the familiarity. They enjoy perhaps the seasonal cycle of things. And they have a particular way of looking at the world that means that, being the same is good. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, you get people who sort for difference. So what this means is you put them in a new environment and they'll notice everything that's different from their usual environment. So they go on holiday and they notice, this is different, that's not the same, this is completely different from something else that I'm used to. And usually they like that, they enjoy difference. Whereas people at this end of the spectrum are less keen on that difference. So somebody who has a difference filter on life, they will often go looking for novelty. So they're often the people who will like to try new things, they like to experiment, they enjoy change, and they particularly like it when things are moving quite quickly and there's always something new to engage their interest. Now, these are quite extreme positions. So in between that, you get two others. So the one from this end is known as sameness with exception, which is where someone would notice what's the same, but they might also notice a little bit of what's a bit different. And often what this means is the person deals in comparisons. So they'll often tell you that the weather's a little warmer in this climate than what they're used to. Or they'll tell you that the team's bigger on this project than the previous one they worked on. And the overall goal is more challenging. So they'll often talk in terms of comparisons. So when someone tells you that, what it means is that they still like things to be the same. They like that feeling of familiarity, but they're also comfortable with a certain amount of change. The fourth position on this spectrum then sits here, so it's kind of the third one from sameness, and this has the lovely title of sameness with exception and difference. And what that means is that a person likes a bit of similarity, they're comfortable with a certain amount of change, and they will from time to time be quite comfortable with quite dramatic change in certain areas of life, as long as it's not too much all at once. So if you think about people in these four different places changing job, for example, the person at this end of the spectrum who likes sameness will probably not change job very often. And if they do, they'll probably like to stay in the same company or the same city or doing the same sort of work or working with the same customers. They like a lot of things to stay the same as well as changing job. If we come this way on the spectrum, the person who thinks in terms of sameness with exception, they'll probably want to change a bit more often than that person. They'll probably like a bigger change when it happens. So they'll be comfortable taking on more responsibility, for example, or they'd be comfortable being challenged to do something that's more difficult than they've previously done. They might be okay with moving to a different city as well as taking on a new job at the same time. So they'd like certain things to stay the same, but they'll have a higher tolerance for change. This person, the one with sameness with exception and difference, what you'll find is that they'll like incremental change in the same way that this person does, but they also, from time to time, will be quite happy to just kind of sweep everything aside and do something completely different. Right at this end of the spectrum, the person who likes difference, they really do like to just kind of change it all dramatically. So this is the person who will change company, change city, change job role, and they may even change lots of other things at the same time. So I'm thinking of someone that I know who several times in her early life moved city, left behind a partner and started a new relationship, started a new job, shifted their responsibilities at work, sold the car and got a new one, moved house. So everything in their life was different within a matter of months. Now, for somebody at this end of the spectrum, that would be really uncomfortable. But for somebody here, they absolutely love to get things changing. Now, think about this in terms of organisational change. What tends to happen is that the people at this end of the spectrum are the ones who go, change, yeah, count me in for that, I'll get involved in that. And so they volunteer to drive the change programmes and so on. And they go out and about into the organisation and they start talking to all the rest of the people about this fantastic change that's happening. It's all going to be different, it's leading edge and nothing's been done like this before and it's so exciting. And of course, that's what's fun for them, is all that change. But the people in the other three positions on the spectrum, well, they may be a bit inclined to sort of, hunker down and hope that it'll pass because they don't feel the same way about change. The person who likes sameness with exception and difference, they'll put up with a certain amount of, sweep it all aside and start again, but not too often. The person who does sameness with exception likes incremental change. So they're okay with the fact that this is getting improved, that that's going to be better, that's going to be more efficient. That's okay with them, but don't tell me it's all going to be completely different and it's never been done before. And at this end of the spectrum, if you're selling change, you really need to major on what's staying the same, as well as talking about what's going to be different. Because for someone at this end of the spectrum, to tell them everything's going to be different is really uncomfortable, and they really will not be motivated to engage in whatever it is you want them to do differently. So this is something that's important to think about. Now, there's more I could say on this subject. For example, if you know what you're listening for, there's a question you can ask people that will predict, on the basis of where they sit on the spectrum, how long they're likely to stay in a job before they want to move on. And that could be moving on to another organisation, or it could be moving on to something else within the current setup. But the thing that I want you to take away from this today is to recognise that people have different degrees of appetite for change. That some people want to move on, want to do something different every couple of years. Some people are quite happy doing the same thing for 6, 7, 8 years and will not feel the need for a major change. So when it comes to selling change in your organisation, and let's face it, change is the only constant for most people these days, thinking about how you position that to people will make a difference to how willingly they engage in your change process.